Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Living Room Radio, where we discuss topics of science, the metaphysical, life, and everything in between with leading minds and interesting people. I'm Drew Rosenblatt, and tonight we are being joined by Jason Verbelli, a scientist, researcher, and magnetism enthusiast involved in the development of a new kind of electrical generator that requires no fuel and produces vast quantities of electrical power by employing a series of strategically positioned magnets in a new and exotic fashion. This generator is called the SEG. Imagine powering cars and airplanes with no need to burn fuel, heating your home, powering all your electronics for little to no cost. Quite important work for the 21st century. Hey, Jason, welcome to Living Room Radio.
Thank you very much for having me. I also want to thank the listeners.
Oh, you're quite welcome. We're going to start the show off just talking a little bit about magnets and magnetism in general, and we'll devote the latter half of the show to the SEG, if that's cool with you.
Sounds good.
All right. Could you start off just by giving us a little background about yourself and what motivates you?
Sure. Well, my name is Jason Verbelli, and I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area until I found the work of Professor John Surl and decided to move down to San Diego, California in 2013 to fully dedicate myself to rebuilding his technology and getting a proof of concept in a professional environment, getting rid of the controversy and really trying to tackle alternative energy, not trying to stay away from free energy and negative connotations and stuff. But what interests me is getting off of the grid and getting people in general the energy that they need to live without having to worry about paying bills and paying for gasoline and coal and all the fossil fuels or whatever that we use today. So just a different way of generating energy that's more efficient, and it's an exotic manner. It's not magic, it's not anything like that, but what really motivates me is changing the energy usage that we go by today, instead of the gas, that we can live freely and expand outward in all ways. So that's and it's not just for energy; it applies to the medical field and to being able to live independently anywhere in the world. So it really expands our freedom to have energy independence and decentralize the energy structure, and it means everything for everybody globally.
Right on, right on. On the other hand, you could almost say that magnets are magical, because it really is quite a magical sight to see what they do,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They're still kind of magical to me. They're one of the most mysterious things and forces in nature, and still nobody knows what is going on really with the magnet. I mean, down at the atomic scale or below, it's still an unknown science. I mean, we have an idea and grasp in relation to electricity, how things move and how strong forces are and how they react, but why and what is actually going on, people still really no idea.
Well,
but it's very exciting.
Let's try to figure out a little bit about what's going on when, say, two cylindrical magnets are drawn together. My basic understanding is that at each pole there's what is a centripetal vortex going in towards the center of the magnet, like a little tornado or whirlpool almost, kind of collapsing the field inwards. And I wonder if you had any more insight into that phenomenon.
Oh yeah, well the two vortexes or vortices going into each other. That it sounds a lot like Walter Russell and his diagrams, and I'm a huge proponent of his work. And it's not just two like tornadoes or vortexes. It's also like two donuts sitting on top of each other in a magnetic field. And there's two guys named Albert Roy Davis and Walter Rawls Jr. They're both passed away now, but they have a website called magnetage.com, magnetage.com, and they showed, I think back in the 50s or 60s, the shape of a magnetic field under this ferrofluid, and you could see two distinct, toroids or donuts on top of each other with vortexes in the center of the donuts. So a lot of people think that there's, just a sphere of influence or energy around a magnet. Other people think it's just a line that divides the top half from the bottom half. But indeed, there is a lot more going on with a magnetic field. And depending if you have ferrofluids, like magnetic reactive ink, or if you have a ferrite powder, like iron dust or something, or if you have compasses, depending on what you're using, you can see the shape of the magnetic field in different ways. And depending on what you use, you might see something different if you're looking at different angles and stuff. But yes, there seems to be two vortices on either end of a magnet, which really is an electrically charged material. And we call it magnetism, but it's really like an extension of electricity.
Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, have you gotten to check out any of Ken Wheeler's work on YouTube? I believe his YouTube name is Theoria Apotheosis.
Yeah, he goes by the Greek name. Yeah, I've known him for a few years now. I sent him a 3 terabyte hard drive and had him fill it up with some PDFs and a bunch of other info. And I sent him some magnets and a few PDFs that he didn't have about magnetism, and we went back and forth for a little bit, and he definitely has a lot of information, but I personally like to explain things with the least amount of syllables, the better.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, he offers some very interesting theories. I think I'm not entirely familiar with his work, but the whole concept of the two opposing opposite forces interacting within a magnet, the centripetal inward force going down towards the center, and then emanating out from that, from I think what's the block wall or the dielectric plane, is the centrifugal vortex that spins in the opposite direction of the centripetal, and it's kind of this self-feeding loop that forms. You got
to be careful around getting too much into terminology too. It's like trying to explain a rock going into a pond and then generating a ripple. It's like you could go into massive detail and terminology explaining how the water spirals back onto itself. And so I'm not comparing magnetism to water, but you can just go on forever and ever about the terminologies and stuff and overcomplicate it. I think Ken has a lot of information, but tends to overcomplicate some things. Sorry, bro. Love your work. Sorry, bro. Everybody has wonderful information to offer. You just got to decipher it sometimes, and sometimes it is confusing. I mean, the work of Walter Russell, it was like I didn't even understand really his stuff until the first 2 years that I was looking at it and having help from Robert Otte, who goes by 77G Slinger on YouTube, and he had decades worth of work looking into Walter Russell's and diagrams and reworking them, and brilliant guy. And it's just there's so much involved with it. It's you could study it for your whole life.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, Walter Russell talked about power multiplication. I believe he came up with a conical shaped generator. It was like two cones with the apexes of the cones pointing towards each other. And the legend goes that he was able to power his 52-room mansion up there on Afton Mountain in Virginia with this conical generator that takes very little electrical input, and it amplifies the power as the spiral gets smaller and smaller towards the center meeting point of the two vortexes. And at that central point, heat is produced to boil water, basically. Everything kind of boils down to boiling water sometimes,
That part of the time,
Yeah.
I actually know the guy's name's Matt Presti, and he used to do a lot of work with Robert Otte. And Matt Presti now works at the University of Science and Philosophy, which was Walter Russell's former university, where he taught these courses with his wife, Leo. And he unearthed this crate, this was last year, that was in this warehouse, and the generator that you just spoke about was in that crate. And they think they're still going through everything, but they have that original generator, and the optic dynamo generator, I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've been keeping up with it a little bit. I'm real excited to hear the developments that are going on with that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything as of last year. Actually, I'm going to try to hit up Matt Presti pretty soon here. Now that we're mentioning him, see what's going on with that. And he has updates on philosophy.org and the USP, University Science Philosophy website, and he posts pictures and stuff on his blog, and just an amazing amount of work, and getting the old pictures back, making them look new again, and then his old charts and diagrams, and making them digital, and reposting all of his old works and stuff that people had never seen before. So yeah, he's releasing all that stuff still.
Yeah, and the university has actually hired a scientist. His name's Darren Colum. He's got a few great, very informative videos out there, and he is actually working on this generator as we speak. He was actually on my show last week. I had him on as a guest. And
hey, all right.
A lot of fun talking to him. Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff going on now, for sure.
We're doing exciting stuff too in the lab where I work here in San Diego, working with Professor John Surl and Fernando Morris. It's just been a massive amount of undertaking, building up, magnetizer and power system for the magnetizer, and doing everything. Nobody sells anything that we need, so we'll have to build and make everything ourselves, and then put it together. And it's just a massive undertaking, and then we've been tackling that for the last year and a half, and we are really in an exciting period right now. And so yeah, it's the other people in other labs. I know superconducting research are making phenomenal strides right now. So it's really a good time to pay attention to stuff, and making in graphene and desalinization too. So it's very exciting.
Definitely. Jason, let's talk about the process of making a magnet. I know there's a high capacitance discharge that goes through a ferrous metal. It might be going a little elementary here, but I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit about just how a magnet is made. The current flows through, but I know current flows both ways. It's not just one. Hence, perhaps why a magnet has two poles. So what exactly is going on atomically with the ferrous metals and the current? Are the atoms just getting more coherent and organized by the electric current?
Well, I'm not trying to make engineers and stuff out of people, but there's different ways of making magnets. You can have an open coil, where you have a coil of wire, and you blast the high current through the coil of wire, and then the coil of wire develops a magnetic field, and then you magnetize things that way, and it takes a lot of power. Or you can have magnetic yokes, which are pieces of metal attached to the magnetic core of something with coils of wire, and then you touch a piece of metal to those on either side. Then it introduces an electric charge to that and magnetizes the metal. It's atomically, or rather microscopically, there are little things called domains, and that's like little sections of the particles that make up the magnet, and they're facing little directions, and they have little mass, willy-nilly. It's randomized, and when you send electric currents through them, they somehow order, and the electric field retains. And now you're talking stuff that's mysterious. We don't know how it actually goes in there. The energy cycles in a loop, or some people say there are little particles being flown out of the magnet in a perpetual loop. Don't know what happens atomically. All I know is that when we electrify a metal, it becomes a magnet, and we can use that in generators and different functions and use them for things. How and why they work, I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out my whole life. I'll be trying to figure that out my whole life. And I ask people how they work, and I get a different answer with every person I ask. So I'm just gonna try to observe what I see from now on, and just to understand whatever it is that I see. Because trying to make sense of things too small to see, you can make up theories all day, and the people will listen to you like a fire camp, but what's really going on? We don't know.
It's mainly ferrous metals that are the magnetic ones, right?
Correct. Yeah, you can only magnetize it. Now, neodymium, like when people say they have neodymium magnets, it's neodymium itself isn't magnetizable, but it enhances the ferrous quality of iron when you use it, so it makes the magnet stronger because it's a more dense material.
Do we have any idea what it is exactly about iron that makes it so unique in this regard?
Well, there's different isotopes of iron. There's different. I personally don't know. I mean, there's like research books, magnetic books, and university books will give you theories on this and that, but I really don't know. I don't, because they abandoned the theory of the atom, with the orbiting electron around the nucleus. That model of the atom was abandoned back in the 1950s, but universities and books still show the model of the atom that way, and then judge, magnetic sciences showing that very elementary model. So you can't really take for face value the stuff that you always see in a university book describing stuff about magnetism or the atom or electricity. It's just to the best of their ability to communicate the idea, but it might not be exactly what's going on. So if you're asking me exactly what's going on atomically, man, I'm just going to be honest with you and say, I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah, same here. I'm just a seeker pretty much.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Pretty much all production of electricity employs magnets. So if magnets require electricity to become magnets, then you can go back in time and, so when was the first magnet, basically? I know, if a lodestone gets struck by lightning, then, it becomes magnetized. But I'm talking like during the beginning stages of the electric power industry. If high amounts of electricity are required to make the magnets that make electricity, then how did they come across the first magnets? Do you have any idea?
Well, that goes back to 1500 Ben Franklin days, and even before, way before that even. Chinese were making they were using lodestones and magnets, but in industry, I'd have to look that up in the history book, man. But first time that they started using them in magnetic generators was probably back in the days of Nikola Tesla, when they were discovering the DC versus AC and being able to have alternating currents and develop these magnetic fields and use them practically. Before that, they weren't really utilizing electricity in a functional manner. It wasn't until the 1800s they started really really understanding this stuff with the work of Tesla and then Walter Russell, Charles Steinmetz, and huge industrial like hydroelectric plants, and having enough force like the waterfalls in order to generate the force to turn turbines, which then you have magnets on them to generate the electricity to power things. Is it's just it's too voluminous. The history is too voluminous to pinpoint. Where did it start?
Yeah, it'd be great to go back and be a fly on the wall throughout history.
Yeah, or even just listen to the people who are alive today. That'd be good too.
Yeah. So when a magnet is being rotated around a coil to produce power, I have heard that it's actually the inertial plane, the block wall of the magnet, that is what's doing the stimulation of the electricity.
It's the flipping of the poles. So it's going back and forth over that block wall, really. That you're flipping the poles north to south, and it's how far away from that line, 90 degrees to the top or down to the equator. The farther that you travel from that equator to the pole and then back again, you get the maximum amount of electricity per the power of the magnet in relation to how fast it's spinning and in relation to the amount of wraps in the coil. It's not just the magnet itself, but it's everything working together. It's inductance, capacitance, and current, and the voltage, and it's standard stuff now when you look at it. Like mathematically, at least for that, that's pretty standard stuff.
Mm-hmm. I heard a real interesting theory. Say we'll just use the example again of a little cylindrical magnet, and the dielectric plane will be right in the center of it. But say you take another cylindrical magnet the same size and combine the two, then the two become like one magnet with the dielectric plane moving to the center point of the new shape, the new distance between the two magnets.
Whichever one has the more mass will overpower and overtake, and then you'll see the poles almost like coalesce like a bubble, like bubbles, and then it'll just become one overall general field. Mm-hmm. So you can have two magnets with two general fields, but you put them together in the ways that they want to be together, and then it'll just develop one general field. Mm-hmm. But if you force them together in different ways, they don't want to be there, then you start getting little patterns like a Hall-Bach array, and then you can focus the magnetic field. It's not really canceling out, but you can have more north on one side than you do on the other side, because you're compressing the field on one side and expanding it on the other, and you can use that for makeshift magnetic shielding, like if you have special turbines or different motors that you might not want to have the magnetic field protruding through, or if you're having different water systems, like you want to try to influence the quality of water. Some people call it structurizing, other people call it changing the water or whatever. If you send water through a magnetic field and while it's spinning, it seems to enhance the quality of the water for a certain time, or plants grow. It makes you healthier. You can taste the sweetness of the water, and it has a different effect. So when you combine magnetic fields in different ways, and then you spin things next to them, like water or fluids or even wine and stuff like that, you can enhance the quality of it. So it's not just applying it to coils, but and electricity, but you can do things with magnets and magnetic fields that affect maybe foods and water and stuff.
Definitely. The interesting theory I quickly alluded to was the possibility of perhaps generating power without rotation of the magnet or the coil. because if you can get that dielectric plane to jump, basically, if you combine, a series of magnets, how the plane will jump towards the center of the new series, then apparently there's like a spike in voltage if there's a coil wrapped around these magnets with the moving of that dielectric plane. So it's real interesting, because it's a way of creating current without rotation. And I just
you're not going to get anything significant to power like a house or a car or anything. You have to have relative motion in order to develop something like, well, you don't have to. Even there's always exceptions to the rule. Like Thomas Henry Moret, he didn't really have any moving parts in his setup, but his valves and everything got super cold. So there was movement of the energy, but maybe not the physical mass. But for what we know and what we're attempting to do, you have to have relative motion between a coil and a magnet. So either the coil can stay put and the magnet can move, or the magnet can stay put and the coil can move. You might develop some really exotic system where to keep them still, but you're not going to be able to power anything really significant with it using what we know right now.
So as far as improving plant growth with magnetized water, have you done much experimentation with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
and I have videos and PDFs and stuff compiling a lot of different people's work to show the reality and the results. You can't argue with side-by-side comparisons. When you see a plant grow like twice or three times as fast and larger with more nutrients, and it's just undeniably it's right there in front of your face. You can't deny it. So you can debate what's happening on a molecular level. Is the water becoming structurized? Are the molecules breaking up and making microclusters? Whatever. We don't know. What we do know is that it happens to influence the water and enhance the quality somehow so that it benefits your health, benefits plants. And I've been feeding my dogs this type of water for like 10 years. They look and act 5 years old. And I water my food when I was growing some. Need to start that again. I was growing a lot of food in my backyard using the type of water. You can just taste the difference between a store-bought food and the food in the backyard. I'm using lots of nutrients too, so that'll make a difference.
How about that Sonic Bloom program for plants?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I also filmed some of that stuff too. You have to do it every day. There's a foliar spray, so a leaf spray that you take like a tiny teaspoon of this powder. It smells really good. I can't really identify what the smell is. I don't know if it's like chocolate or ginger or something. Powder smells really good. And then you put it in water, like a gallon of water. You shake it up, and then you put that fluid in a spray bottle and you spray it on the underside and on the tops of the leaves, and you play this music with it's like classical music or bird chirps, and it has these specific high-pitched frequencies going on with the music. And the plants, you know how our skin has pores? Well, the plants leaves also have like pores, and when you play these frequencies, their pores open up, and when you spray this stuff on their leaves, when the pores open up, it absorbs the nutrients that you spray onto it. And so it's not just the roots that are getting the massive nutrient absorption, you're getting it through the leaves and the foliar absorption too, and it makes the plants grow massively. It's crazy. This guy had a house plant. It's like a purple house plant. I forgot what the name of it was. I have it written down somewhere. I have it in PDF. It normally grows like 18 inches in length, but his grew like 1,300 feet. He was in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's like 18 inches house plant. It grew like over 1,000 feet.
That's amazing.
Because he kept doing this process over and over. Not every plant's going to grow thousands of feet, but you will I've seen a perceptible difference in the plants. It's crazy.
I wonder what that high-pitched frequency originates from, or how that was discovered. Do you have any idea?
I got to look it up again. I'm usually really good about this, and his name is slipping my mind. He passed away also. He's no longer with us. But his company's still there. And where is it? One of the Sonic. Boy, yeah, he has it on the on his website, sonicbloom.com. It's really reasonably priced. It's not the Sonic Bloom Festival though, people. There's like a rave festival. People confuse it there. Hey, they should use it there at the festival though.
Yeah,
that'll give it some promotion.
Speaking of plants, there's a real interesting experiment that was done by a Russian scientist years ago, where he applied a small amount of current to a tomato plant, and he would cut off some of the branches, and he applied the micro voltage at the area of the cutoff, and he found that the tomato would regrow the branch 3 times faster with the current applied at the source of the injury to the plant.
Yeah, but you have to have the electric current flowing from the stalk of the plant away, like, as a branch would grow. Or else it would stunt the growth if you have the current flowing in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
The electroculturing and magnetoculturing. I have this PDF. I'll email it to you. I have a video on YouTube and a PDF to go along with it. It's like 130 pages. It's compiling the research of all this structurized water claims and all these alleged units to improve water. And I've remade a lot of them and tested them out myself and looked into the claims, and all the ones that I've found to be super interesting I included in there. So it's like 130 pages of it, and that Sonic Bloom and all this other stuff is listed in there. And I'd love to give you that PDF so that you could post that, or just spread it around.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, people scrutinize it. People need to see if it's real or not. This could be fake, so people got to try it for themselves. And if their plants just happen to grow, then what a coincidence.
Yeah, you could feed a lot more people if your plants are much more productive and 4 times
exactly.
as big.
But you just got to be careful about the claims that you make. So,
yeah.
You just the water will prevent pests. Or you just say that the water, you need less water to water your plants, and you'll produce the same amount of food with just a little less water, maybe 30% less water. But then when people use 30% less water, they get twice the amount of food. You don't tell them that. You just say, just use 30% less water, and then it'll get rid of some pests, and you don't need to water your plants as much. Which is true. You don't tell them all the benefits. Let them discover it for themselves. And what a coincidence. Because if you make too many claims, then people will count on those claims to happen. And if they don't, then you're a liar and a fraud. So you just claim just a little bit more efficiency, or you claim just a little bit more cool stuff. And then when they find that it does a whole lot more, wow, then they're really happy.
Yeah, set the bar low so that the expectations are met, right?
Yeah.
Jason, have you ever heard of a Russian healing modality called Scanar by any chance? It's SCENAR. It's kind of along the same lines of applying micro voltage to an area of injury. But,
no, I haven't heard about this. This is awesome to me. Wait a minute here. I've heard of scalar, but not what is it?
Scanar, SCENAR.
No.
It's totally fascinating, man. I think you're going to be interested in this.
It's the Nugent. It's like a therapy, natural healing. I'll look into this thing.
Yeah, it's kind of, the TENS units are out and everything, but it's different from a TENS unit because of the frequency of the electrical current. Apparently, it's more harmonious with your body's frequency. It kind of emulates your nervous systems, the signals in your nervous system. And
This is interesting. Look at this.
yeah, I actually have a scanar because years ago I had kind of a stiff neck, and I was doing some research and trying to figure out a way I could help myself out. And
Oh, look at that! I just clicked on it. Clicked on the research link on their website, and the first person that came up was Dr. Robert Beck.
there you go.
And I'm all for it. Oh, Dietmeyer too. Look at these. They have some very wise people on their website here. So yeah. That's a very good sign.
Yeah, apparently the scanar was developed for the Russian space program back in the 70s and 80s, I believe, because the astronauts couldn't take pharmaceuticals to space with them for if they ever had any kind of like health problem or anything. So because the pharmaceuticals would contaminate their water supply and they had limited space. So they came up with, it used to be top secret. They came up with this like electro stimulative tool that will, like I said, emulate your nervous system signals and promote healing. It actually speeds up healing, and I'm not just saying this is kind of like a snake oil salesman or anything like that.
Oh no, no, it's very legitimate.
Oh yeah, because I actually have one myself. I've had it for years, and anytime I have kind of like a physical way of life. I'm always out doing stuff, and anytime I have anything happen, any kind of stiffness or soreness or anything, the scanar just almost instantly like is like a 100% help to whatever's going on. But
now, have you ever heard of electrets?
Electrets, yeah, I think I've heard you talk about that actually.
Yeah. Now people know about magnets, but they don't know about electrets. And what you're talking about, with the rapid healing, that's what electrets do. Is it's like how do I do? How like a magnet is a piece of metal with a magnetic field. Well, an electret is a piece of dielectric or a plastic or like a like a rubber or something, like a wax, and it retains an electric charge around itself, like a static field. But a magnet always has north and south. An electric pole will have, just a north or just a south, depending on which direction it's facing you or coming towards you or going away from you. It's different. So the thicker, a more dense a magnet is, the more magnetism you'll get out of it. But the thinner a dielectric electret is, the more effective it can be. So it's like the inverse, one or the other. And a lot of people think, they have magnet wristbands and stuff to try to have healing qualities. And they think that the magnets are what's healing them. But what I really think now is that the magnets are just a means in order to facilitate the electric aspect of it, the electrostatic aspect of it. And it's not really the magnets per se, but it's the electric currents generated by the magnets that will heal you. But if you have just the electric field, like an electret, you don't need the magnet. So you can have these things that are called electret bandages, electrostatic bandage, and there's patents for those, and they produce massive tissue growth and healing. It's like just a thin piece of charged electric plastic, or you can even form it in Band-Aids and stuff and promote massive healing. It has to be very close to your skin, though, like microns or at least a millimeter or something. It can't just be like a magnetic field where you can stand far away and it'll affect you. This has to be really, really close.
Yeah, there's a real interesting effect with the scanar when you're using it. Say, you have a point on your arm or something that's sore, and you can take the electrode of the scanar and you can be moving it up and down your arm, and it'll slide on your skin just fine, nice and smooth. But as soon as it hits that point, that's the trouble spot, the scanar electrode will literally stick like a magnet to that point on your skin. So I'm not exaggerating at all. It literally is like a magnet sticking to your skin. So there's something going on there, and I'm still trying to figure out why exactly it's doing.
Yeah, well, the electrostatics mimics magnetics, or vice versa. Like when you have attraction and repulsion, electrostatics can do that too, not just magnetics. And that's where you're gonna get the magic when people say you're dealing with electrostatics, when you're dealing with the super fast healing or even levitating things and traveling through space super fast. That's going to be the electrostatic stuff. The magnets might be there to help generate it, but you're going to get the really fantastic stuff from the electrostatics.
Yeah. Tell you another real cool feature with the Scanar is you can put it in dose mode, and like I have dogs too, and one of them's getting older, and we'll be out on a walk, and I'll see that he might be having a little limp going on with one leg, and I'll take note of it. Then when we get home, I'll put the Scanar onto dose mode, and it basically acts as like a voltmeter, and you can move the Scanar around on his arm, and or not his arm, his leg, and you can actually pinpoint the area that he's having pain in, because he can't talk to you. So there's like a different energetic reading, and the Scanar will beep at this point of like low energy on the skin or on the body, and that's another and it does the same kind of sticky magnetic kind of feel to it when you get an area like that. It has like a literal stickiness to it, and so yeah, for pets, it's wonderful, man.
Yeah, and I also use Dr. Willard's water, which is like a concentrated minerals, which I add to distilled water, and then I drink that, and I only really drink that, and I give my dogs only that type of water. And they have a dog healthy version of this concentrate on drwillard.com, and that's like I swear by that stuff. They've been drinking this for like 10 years now, and my dogs are 11 years old, and they look and act 5 years old. It's crazy. I use that stuff, use that Dr. Willard. It helps with their joints. It helps with their nutrient intake. It helps with their fur. I mean, they're very healthy. I love this stuff.
Well, what's in it? Is it like calcium?
Yes, there's calcium, magnesium carbonate, and then there's lignite, which is like a very, very ancient fossil. And there's other like silica, castor oil, very minute amounts, and it's just a perfect mixture of minerals to remineralize your water after you distill your water. You can add it to tap water, but it's recommended to use distilled water. And it's just the healthy minerals to have in your water, and it allows for your system to absorb nutrients more effectively, and it will help with water retention. Like if you have a lot of sodium and you retain water and stuff, and if you get bloated or something, it'll prevent that. So it's very effective in many, many ways. If you water your plants with it, plants love it. I know because they tell me.
Yeah. How about you got any Ebner effect going on with any of your plants?
I would love to try. No, I haven't been able to try it. Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, could you elaborate on the Ebner effect a little bit for us? Yeah,
there's this guy, I don't even know if he's still alive. His name is Guido Ebner, and he discovered that his house plant would grow towards his electrostatic experiment on his desktop in his house. It would rather grow towards that than grow towards the sunlight in the window. And that particular house plant was a lot bigger than the rest of his other house plants of the same type, and he noticed that. So he tried it again with other house plants and found that they like with wheatgrass and other fast-growing sprouts, he found that they grew a lot faster around this electrostatic source, like a negative field, negative charge.
Do you know how he would generate this electrostatic force?
He had it between there was a, I think he had a, well, wait, I have to look through his notes. I have all of his, there's not that much information on it. There's only a couple pages of info. I think his son is picking up the work again. I'm not sure exactly what electrostatic source, but it lists exactly what he used, the microcurrents, the voltage, and everything is listed, what he used, and with pictures to show. But what the really important thing that I think is that when he took the seeds from that plant that had been changed, and then he bred those seeds. Let's say he planted those seeds, and the next generation of that plant looked nothing like the first one. It was completely different. Like it was a more genetically pure version of that plant. And at first I thought, well, man, maybe it was like evolving the plant. Maybe it was making a new form of that plant. Then I started reading more of his research, and he did this with trout eggs, and the trout grew a lot bigger, and then he took those little trout eggs and put them in the center of capacitor plates, sent a microcurrent from one plate to the other, and the influence of an electric field. And then when those trout grew up, they looked all like not really much like the mother or the host, the first original one. And I figured, wait a minute, maybe they're evolving the fish like they were evolving the plants. And then somebody I read said that no, those fish looked to be an extinct version of those fish that hadn't been seen for like 100 years. It's like, wait a minute. I thought that the electric charge might be evolving the plant, but maybe it's just restoring the genetic makeup of what the plant was originally. Maybe it's like not. Maybe we are de-evolved right now from what we were supposed to be, so this process would sort of bring back what we're supposed to be. We would see that as evolution, but really it's more of just restoring what we're supposed to be.
Very interesting.
So if you do that with plants, it would be bringing back maybe the original genetic potential. And this process is claimed to be able to fix GMO seeds and plants. So if you get some some genetically modified corn, just the yellow, regular, plain, nasty corn that everybody has, you can potentially turn it back into maize, like, beautiful different kernels and stuff like that. With just the regular, nasty GMO seeds, you can use this process, allegedly, and restore the genetic potential over the course of a few generations of plants. But you could. Theoretically, you do it with plants and fish and stuff. So I'm interested. What if you lived in a house, that just had an electrostatic influence like this all the time? Would you look like an alien or a Neanderthal? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just bringing more coherence to DNA or something like that. Yeah.
I'm super interested in that. My dad was a professor of chemistry. He did like ionucleations and embalmings and forensics and a whole bunch of stuff. He was at a high school reunion or something like that recently. It was like a couple weeks ago. And there is this guy that he graduated Mills High School with, Craig Venter. And this guy is worldwide known for his genetic research. He was the one in the Human Genome Project, and he mapped out the human genes for the first time ever. That was this guy. And he does stuff with this genetic, I wouldn't call it tampering, but it's like predictive medical research. So he takes somebody's blood and see what genes that they have and say, okay, you are going to get diabetes around this age. You are going to have heart failure at this age. You're prone to prostate cancer. You will get it at this age. Like, he can predict what you will get and fix it, and then give you an injection of some simple amino acids that will counteract that loss of genes or restore your genetic makeup. And this research has been going on for a couple of decades, but now it's becoming so massively backed up because of supercomputers now, that we are mapping people's genes and stuff, and it's like, well, not we, but human race is. So the future's looking so unbelievable. Like we could, hopefully not like Gattaca, but we'd be able to do stuff just like that. But while you're currently alive, you'd be able to, like, let's say you have a woman that you're interested in, right? You could both go give your blood and see what your child's diseases will be at what age. So, my God, if you were to get together and your blood makeup and your blood makeup says that your child will get this disease at this age, unless you get this or do this and do this, and we can actually map that out for ourselves and predict it. This guy it's unbelievable, and these electrostatic processes can influence those other genetic processes too. This is some serious research that is exciting, and not many people are looking into it at all, at least in the electrostatic aspect. Not at all.
Yeah, we are living in interesting times for sure.
Yeah, man. It's a trip.
Yeah, so let's talk about the big topic, the SEG, Jason. What's going on with the SEG these days?
Well, we are finally in a position now at SEG Magnetics Incorporated, and we are located in San Diego, California. We've been building up our infrastructure for the past, almost six and a half years, since June 2010. Getting, investors here and there, small shareholders to financially contribute, all of which who have approached the company and the project and say, we want to help because we believe this works, we believe it worked before, and we want to see it work in modern day. We want to use this. And so what we are doing now is we're finally being able to build up this magnetizer and test the imprinting of the waves, and now we're getting into molding the neodymium and the copper and doing everything ourselves. So we have eliminated the need for major manufacturers and spending tens of thousands of dollars in shipping and work, so we can cut that down to hundreds of dollars for ourselves now. So that's major achievements, and we've been making strides in the past maybe 6 months building up the power system for this magnetizer. And it's very, very exciting right now. So we're doing things that we have been trying to do for the last few years, but finally a fully equipped and doing it. So it's like it's super fun, and it's only myself and Fernando that are doing the work. Mm-hmm. Oh, Mike too. Mike helps out.
For the sake of anyone who's new to this, could you give a little background about John Surl and his development of this apparatus?
Yes. Yeah, it's controversial life. Professor John Surl. It's a guy who was born in the UK in the 1940s, and he had a series of dreams, 2 dreams every year, starting at age 6, and they lasted for 6 years. And his first dream was about hopscotch squares and a giant steamroller rolling over those hopscotch squares, and he somehow deciphered hundreds of, well, let's say 100 books worth of information and data about this Sudoku-like mathematics that he calls the law of squares. And he had a second dream, which was him climbing up a ladder into like this attic with bales of hay around like the spokes of a wheel. They all catch fire, but something tells him he's going to be safe in the center of the ring of fire. And he somehow deciphered that dream into a magnetic and electric system that is ring-shaped, that emits radial circular electric charges, like, Saturn's rings. And all of this stuff from his dreams and being in the right place at the right time with millions of dollars of equipment and factory workers and everything around him to help him out and achieve this. So back in the 50s, this kid was working in an industrial electric warehouse, where in London, where they powered the whole city. So he had access to all of these huge pieces of equipment, these magnetizers, his factory workers, and as a kid, they made him the supervisor. And there's no like labor laws back then. It's a completely different world back then. So he was just in the right place in the right time and had access to all this stuff. And he was just a person making crazy claims about his dreams. And they told him to shut up, to get out, or prove himself. So he had to prove himself because everybody was laughing at him. Nobody believed him, of course, rightfully so, right? So he did it though. He, with the aid of all of these people and free materials, free megawatts of power to experiment with, and he told them what he wanted, and they just did it. So he used all of those millions of dollars of infrastructure to his availability, and he had these people assemble these or put together these parts. He then took home those parts and put them together. And when he did, he just wanted a little generator to have some lights at night on a heater so he can read and do some work. But when he plugged in an iron, it started to spin. So I said, okay, I want to see how much I can plug into this to see when it stops spinning, when it heats up and gives out. So he plugged in a cooker, and it started spinning faster. And he plugged in like a light bulb after that, and started spinning so fast, he said, it just lifted to the ceiling. And nobody taught him that wasn't supposed to happen. So he somehow discovered a electrical generator that not only did not break down, it did not heat up, but it got very cold. It seemed to absorb the energy around it to convert to electric power, and it developed its gravitational field and sort of just lifted to the ceiling. And he went to grab it, and his hands got stuck to it. And when he was first describing this, I was thinking, when you were to lick a really hot or a really cold pole on a winter day or something, your tongue would get stuck to the pole, Mm-hmm. You get stuck there because it's cold. No. Like, when you were describing your little device there, how it would be like stuck to your skin. You would feel just a tiny bit of pull, mm-hmm. To your skin using that thing.
Yeah.
Well, imagine it being in a massive, monstrous system, and you can't pull away because you're electrostatically like linked to it now. You're stuck to it. So his landlady was there, saw this, started beating it with a broomstick, and then ended up getting some hot water, trying to pour it on his hands. And then
oh my gosh!
It finally he was able to let go, and he said it broke and then lifted back down to the table. And when he was describing this, I'm like, when you pour liquid nitrogen on a magnet in a superconductor, it will lift up really slowly, and it's called the Meissner effect, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that he was describing what was happening is exactly what happens with superconductors when they get super cold. And somehow this kid developed this magnetic system to tap into this type of energy that's all around us. It's not free energy. It's not over unity. It's not 0 point energy. There's all these names that people call, but really it's just energy that's all around us. It's like thermal energy, heat energy, infrared, cosmic energy, light. It's everything around us is in a constant state of vibration and chaos on the atomic scale, and lower than that, it's like randomness and chaos. And what that translates to in science is energy. Anything moving chaotically, anything in motion has energy to it. But if you can make all of that random energy going every which way, like the static on your TV, well, what happens if all of that static on the TV starts to go in one direction? Well, it's no longer static. You have like a whirlpool. You're looking at something on the TV. You have a picture. You have an image, something. Mm-hmm. So that's what this does, is this device somehow seems to absorb the chaotic energy around and cycle it through itself in an ordered fashion, which creates this like a jet stream of energy within itself and outputs it in a usable way. So it's just taking what's already around us in an unusable form and making it usable. It costs money to do that, to make the machine, but once you have it, it won't cost money to maintain. Just like it costs money to build Hoover Dam. But once you have it built, it doesn't cost any money to keep the water going. It's just a natural process. You're tapping a natural process. The sun is powering the dam. The sun is powering the water, which evaporates and rains. And you're just cycling it through the dam. Same thing with this device, is that you're tapping the energy, which is powered by the sun and all the stars and everything around, and energy's already there. You're just allowing the energy to cycle through this in such a manner as to tap it, where it would be like an anomalous mist. You can't do anything with a cloud of humidity on a hot day. You can't drink that, right? But if you were to be able to turn that humidity into a jet stream, boy, you can shower with it. You can cut things with it. You can drink it. You can do all sorts of things. It's the same water. It's in a different form. Same energy, just in a different random form. That's what this kid discovered back then, is that he developed a system to tap into that, what people call zero-point energy, or what people might call ether. It's just the kinetic energy of electrons, or what people call electrons. And it's just the energy that's around us, which you can call it heat, or rather you call it temperature.
So the story goes that one of his early models actually had so much anti-gravitic lift to it that it crashed through the ceiling and flew off into the air. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the first one. Just lifted to the ceiling, he said, and the way the story goes, he got a cable and like a large pin, like an eye hook, something that you can bolt, like you can tow a car with or something, a large pin and a cable, 60-ton cable. So he bolted that to the floor and had a cable attached to this thing. He said, okay, if this thing wants to lift off the table, I'm going to hold it down. Well, like, what happens if you try to hold a basketball underwater? It fights back, right? Well, apparently, that's what happens with this like negative energy. It'll fight back with a lot more force than you have. So he tried to hold it down with 60 tons of force, and this thing snapped the cable and blasted through his roof. And the way he describes is that it started to glow as it hovered above the neighborhood. Everybody's radio sets went on full blast, whether they were plugged in or not. And then any birds that were in the area just fell to the ground dead. And then he said the roofs of tiles were rippling like waves. And then this thing just, in a blink of an eye, just took off straight up into the sky, and a flash of light was gone.
So it could still be going and probably out of the solar system. Who knows? Huh?
I would think it would be. It would find an orbit in between planets. Like it would just be there, because it's like the way John Surl describes things is like this. Once it's in that superconductive mode, it will repel all mass away from it. All mass that we know is like positive. So this it'll run away from all of that positive polarity. The Earth is magnets and superconductors want to repel when they're in that superconductive mode. The Earth is a giant magnet. So this guy developed a superconducting machine. The Earth's magnetic field could potentially just push it away really, really quickly. And so you just see a streak of light. And there wouldn't be really any inertia, like you wouldn't feel the G-forces or anything. It's a completely different science. And this guy claims to have developed a type of generator that harnesses all of that weird exotic behavior. And what we were trying to do in San Diego is just rebuild the proof of concept so that we can see the unit produce energy. You know, it'd be great to fly around and blast holes in roofs and stuff, but what we're focused on is powering a light bulb. That'd be good first. We just want to see one of those little rings orbit around a larger magnetic ring. That's what we're aiming to do for now. And then we're going to aim for powering a little bit more, and then seeing if we can do it bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can always scale up from doing something small. And we have the opportunity to still speak with Professor Surl. You know, a lot of people want to talk to Nikola Tesla, and he's dead and gone. But John Surl's still here. So what we're doing is talking with him weekly and visiting with him. He's visiting with us, and we are getting the information needed to try to decipher this stuff and rebuild everything that he originally developed, because he didn't do it by himself. He gave the information that he had to professional machinists and factory workers. He said, I want to see this, and they brought it back to him. He doesn't really know how they machined it and everything. You know, they did all the work, but he had the idea. He gave them the direction. They did the work. He brought it to him. He assembled it, and it just worked, he says. So we want to see it work, and we're going to do what it takes to make that happen. And after 6 years of building up the infrastructure, because we're just a small lab, you know, we're not a industrial warehouse that produces electricity for the whole city. We don't have those capabilities, but we're building up those capabilities slowly to just do what we need to prove enough, so that when we get to that next stage, the investors will make it rain, and then we can really build and get a robotic assembly line and really scale up the process. So for now, things are exciting, so that we're being able to do this stuff finally and see some results. And we have the capability to imprint these magnetic waves. That's the whole point. You know, how was he able to do this? He didn't just grab some refrigerator magnets and assemble them together and magically make this thing. No, he discovered a magnetic process of magnetization, which allows for waves like a sine wave or an energy signature to be imprinted in a magnet, like a Polaroid in a magnet. Like you don't have to add an additional signal. As the magnet rotates, it'll produce that signal as a constant, and then it'll feed off of that signal. It's a new phenomenon and a new process, and it's nothing that violates thermodynamics. It's just a different way of harnessing energy. Very complicated, very, very complex, but it's real.
So it's kind of the holy grail for perpetual motion, you could say, huh?
No, I wouldn't say that. No. Well, stay away from those terms. We would say it's the holy grail for efficiently producing energy in a new way.
Well, once it gets going, there's nothing really that stops it. I mean, it just continues.
Well, we don't have to worry about that. We can let the grandkids worry about that. That's not up to us to worry about. All we need to do is start it up, and then we can let somebody else see how long it goes.
That's amazing, yeah.
But that's the thing, is that you don't want to make too many claims, because people will expect those things to happen. So what we'll say is, this generator will produce 30% better efficiency than anything else out on the market for equal price. Mm-hmm. But when they happen to use it, it provides all their electrical needs, and it doesn't break down.
Yeah.
So that's, but you don't even want to go that far. At first, what you'd probably do is you want to like hide it. You sell a wind turbine, or you sell a solar panel, but you have the unit inside the wind turbine. So people think the wind turbine is producing electricity, even if there's no wind, but the machine is inside of the wind turbine. They don't need to know where the electricity is coming from. You just claim 30% better efficiency. Mm-hmm. But when it happens to provide 100%, mm-hmm. Well, what a coincidence. Isn't that great? I make no claims.
I think sometimes there's a fear of terms like perpetual motion because of all like the associated kind of scams that have arisen in the pursuit of it. But really, if you think about it, isn't everything always in perpetual motion?
Yes.
An atom is always vibrating.
Well, they get that from the Big Bang. Mm-hmm. There can't be perpetual motion because of the Big Bang, they say. Because all of the energy and the mass was all created at the same time, all at once. So there's only a finite amount of energy and mass in the universe which interchanges. And it's a closed system in the universe, so everything is conserved. Where's the boundary of the universe? Have you seen it? Are we in a box? Have you seen? I personally don't believe the universe is a closed system. I don't believe in a Big Bang because the mathematics is just bogus for it, and there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever. All of the evidence that they have provided has been now debunked more and more and more. Cosmic microwave background is the mapping for their satellites is all like bunk and crap, and they've admitted to that. And their mysterious signals they were getting in deep space are because they opened their microwave for their hot pockets in their own labs. It's like, are you kidding me right now? Like, it just gets ridiculous. And they can't discern the difference between the microwaves reflected from our Earth's oceans versus deep space microwave radiation. So they think that these signals are coming from a Big Bang, but really they're coming from our own oceans. And then there's gravitational waves and stuff. And all this. It's just complete crap. It's horrible nonsense that it's all based on the relativity, and it's just Nikola Tesla is very displeased. He'd slap people. It's crazy.
So I understand back in the 60s, John Surl was able to develop working models of the SEG. I believe they also termed it the IGV, the inverse gravity vehicle, that he was able to control. So it wouldn't just, go fly off willy-nilly.
It wasn't until years later that he discovered he needed to add the nylon 66, which was the dielectric layer. He says that at first when he was trying to draw the energy from the machine, it was like creating a flash flood without a dam. Like you just get an overflow of energy. You can't use any of that. Hoover Dam only works because there's a wall to block the water. And then you use, the wall of water and the weight of the water to turn turbines. But if there's just a flash flood, how are you going to use that? You can't. It's just an overflow of energy. So that's what happened with his first devices, was that it didn't have anything to regulate the energy flow. It was just an all-out avalanche and a cascade of energy that created a chain reaction, and it couldn't be stopped. So he learned years later that if he added a plastic or like a dielectric layer to it, that it would regulate the electricity almost like an opaque, like if you shine a flashlight at something that's opaque, the light still gets through a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, normally if you have an insulator, electricity can't get past an insulator. That's what it does. It blocks the electric flow. It's what an insulator does. It insulates. But what this type of electricity, he says, is it like quantum tunnels through the material. Okay. The only way that can do that is if it generates what's called Cooper pairs or bosons. And sure enough, bosons can travel through insulators just like light travels through glass. So even though you have an opaque glass, you might not be able to see through it, light's still getting through. So even though you might not be able to block all of the charges, there's still charges getting through that insulator, which is regulating the electric current, he says. So he didn't initially have that. So every unit that he tried to use practically as a generator, it would overflow, go superconductive, and blast off. So he couldn't use it as a generator. But until he added the dielectric layer, and then he said it regulated the current, and then he can use it practically up to a certain point. Because if you draw too much, then there's nothing to stop it. So he said if it wants to overflow, then let's let it overflow and build a body around it. So that's what he did, and he was able to remote control these things using ham radio and like TV oscillators and a bunch of very complicated equipment and in the body of the craft. It has to be in the center of the disc itself. You can't just have things outside of the ring, or else it's not going to work. So you have to build it big enough in order to fit everything in the ring. Mm-hmm. So that's what he did, was able to attempt a long time ago. Everything had been destroyed and confiscated and taken and burned. You know the story, the free energy stories of all the black men. There was no men in black. It was really his disgruntled wife and police. She called the police. She didn't really like what he was doing, didn't like the attention he was giving the project, so she burned everything that he had.
And it's great that we have picture evidence of his early experiments with the anti-gravity application. There's press coverage of these events, and
those were models. That was not the model you see with the legs and stuff. And there was a guy named John Hocknell, and he was the press photographer who came to John Surl's home, and he took the pictures for the newspaper. And John Surl was against this, but the guy said he thought it would be a good idea if they took his model IGV, which was like maybe 12 inches, you could sit it on a desk. He said, let's put that on a string and put that over you, and then we can take a picture, and then we can use that for the newspaper. Because he didn't have the disc at the time that the guy was taking that particular picture. And John was like, no, then people are going to think it's fake. He says, no, we're just going to use it for the interview. So he took the pictures for that, and now people think that's the actual disc in flight, just like John Surl didn't want.
Weren't there UFO sightings that were attributed to some of his models?
Oh, there was one in 1967 or 68, and it was called the Warminster Thing, and it was a town of Warminster in the UK. And he was experimenting there in this open field, and two policemen saw what he was doing, and a whole town got scared to death. They thought of aliens, and they saw this glowing disc, and it was buzzing, like electrostatic buzzing, and just flying and glowing. And then they got scared to death. And then they called the police, and then the police saw it, and everything. So it's like, John Surl thought it was hilarious, but these people were very, very scared. But that it was in Warminster. And then there's another sighting that is claimed at Blackbush Airport. He wanted to land it, remote control, and just wanted to descend into the airport, and he called ahead of time trying to get the okay from the tower at the airport, and they were confused as to what the hell he was talking about. And he had it hovering over the airport, and then people were freaked out even after he was telling them exactly what it's going to be, and so he flew it off or something, and then that was the end of that.
So do you think it was the British government that confiscated his work?
No. It was Midlands Electric Board, the electric company who he worked for, who his wife called and told them that he was using a generator on his own to power his house. So they got angry and followed the wires and saw that he wasn't paying for electricity because he was generating his own. And there was a law that said that you can't power your own house. Like, you have to pay for the city's electricity. Even if you had a bunch of batteries powering your house, like car batteries, let's say you're powering your house with 1,000 watts of power from car batteries, then they would consider that you stealing 1,000 watts of power from the city. Wait a minute. No, I have bought car batteries, and I'm powering my own house, right? Well, however much you're powering your house is how much you're stealing from us, because you're not paying us. That was their philosophy. So he was powering his own house with his own generator that he built and plastered into his wall. And they got wind of it, came, ripped it out of his wall, and sued him, or took him to court, rather, trying to sue him for stealing electricity.
Pretty backwards, huh?
Yeah, but he didn't steal electricity. He was generating his own. And so the judge demanded that they bring in the unit that they claimed they confiscated from his house, and they refused to bring it in. So the judge dismissed the case. He said, I'm not going to have him pay a fine because you did confiscate something. Yes, sir. So how does it work? We don't know. So you're saying he built something that you don't understand? Yes. But I thought you said he was an idiot. Well, so he's smarter than you then? I guess so, sir. Case dismissed. I'm not going to make this guy pay for something you're not even going to prove. Get out of here. So he lost everything, and he's been trying to gain the support to reprove and rebuild everything since then, which was back in like the late 70s, early 80s. So it's quite a long time to try to rebuild this stuff, and it's just been controversy ever since, because a guy with just fairy tales about a flying disc is kind of difficult to get investors. People want to see a light bulb being powered before they contribute millions of dollars, Right. But he was in the position years ago he didn't need the millions. He didn't have to pay payroll or hazardous or insurance accounting for the materials, the labor, the shipping, the utilities, the wires, the electricians, the machines. He didn't have to pay for any of that. He just walked into a fully equipped facility and got to use it all for free. But now, okay, we want to rebuild what he had before. Well, we're going to need the capabilities that he had before. That's millions of dollars. We don't have millions. This guy's talking crazy stuff. So we need to actually build something to prove and try to decipher the crazy talk. And that's what Fernando does, is he takes the convoluted stories and translates it into real science and builds a demonstration unit to display the claims that John Surl is trying to communicate. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we have been doing, and it's successful. Everything that we have set out to do has proven to be successful so far. There's not been one thing that we haven't attempted that hasn't actually worked. So our next huge attempt is to generate the electron emissions. So when this magnet rotates around that magnet, it's going to produce electricity. Normally, when you have magnets rotating around each other, they don't do anything. You have one general magnetic field. Remember, at the beginning of the show, you have one magnet, you bring it together with another magnet, you just have one common magnetic field, right? Right. Well, with this, you rotate these magnets around each other. It's not just magnets. You have copper, you have Teflon, you have a magnetic material, you have neodymium. You have 4 distinct materials rotating around each other, which are creating electric charges and magnetic fields and motion. It's doing stuff. And it's harnessing, so that's the claim, is that what we're aiming to do. Is the claim is that when these things rotate around each other at a specific density, specific magnetic fields, They're imprinted magnetic fields, very special stuff. Okay, we're going to do that, and then we're going to see this production of electricity. And when we do, it's game time, and we're probably not going to be doing any interviews after that because we won't need to get the word out anymore. But, yeah, it would be danger zone then.
So these imprinted magnetic waveforms, would you say that they're the key to the SEG?
Exactly. It's the heart of the technology. It could not be achieved without it. Otherwise, you just have a very expensive paperweight.
Could you go into a little bit about how that's done, these imprinted magnetic waves?
Well, it's just a completely different process. All known processes in the industry use the high capacitive discharge of just the flash bang process. It's like, hitting the material with a hammer and then there you go. But rather than hitting it with a hammer, you're just blasting it with an electric charge. And that's what the industry does today. They use a standard 60 hertz, the stuff coming out of your wall socket. It's not a regulated current, and they just saturate a metal. Just like you submerge a sponge in water, it saturates. Well, a sponge can only get so wet. A piece of metal can only retain so much magnetism. That's all there is. But that's not what this is about. We are imprinting an electric signature, using frequencies and coils, and you get a completely different result. I'm not trying to make a scientist out of the listeners, but it's just it's a completely different process, which requires a lot more power and control, and shielding and stuff like that. It's just it's very complex. And the point is that nobody else is attempting this form of magnetization because nobody knows about it. That you can't how do I say, you can't research it, you can't look it up anywhere. There's no place to seek it out. You can't ask anybody about it because this one guy, this kid, discovered this process, and nobody else has attempted it. So it's a new venture, and there's not many places to turn to. So we have to do everything ourselves, and there's not much to compare it to. So it's just a different process of making magnet. It's you need a lot of power. John Surl had like 3 to 5 million watts of power in order to do this stuff back then. And normally, in order to magnetize something, you may need like 800, maybe a few thousand watts or something. Mm-hmm. Like he had an unbelievable amount of capabilities back then. It's like it's a completely different way to do stuff.
So is the wattage one of the main technical hurdles as far as fully replicating the SEG?
No. Well, not now. I mean, yes, you do have to have major wattage, and that's what we've been building up for the past 6 months now, is being able to do just enough for our lab experiments to get to the next step. Now, we're not a factory. We're not a major company. We're just a small corporation to validate these claims and make a proof of concept. And then we will be able to make a manufacturer's prototype to actually power, as a product, to make a product. That's what everybody wants now, as a product to use. But we are just a lab at this point to validate the claims, and then we will make a product.
So how far away are you from being able to validate all these claims, you think?
Like 85% there now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'd say 2-3 years ago, we were about 50%. Now we're about 85%. We have made huge strides in the last 6 months, especially with this power system. And you couldn't do it without the power system before, and that's what's been taking so long. And the molds for the rings and stuff. It's just it's an incredible amount of work, and because we have no funding, we have funding from our shareholders, but it's enough to carry us month to month. We don't have millions of dollars. If we did, we'd hire the professionals in order to help us out. It would move so much faster. But for now, it's just myself and Fernando. I'm not an expert. I'm just a super interested guy who's fully dedicated. And I've spent so much time in this stuff. Now I'm, oh God, well, if I'm the expert in this, then Lord help us, man. We're, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We're just two people working on this in a very small lab with shoestring budget. If we had NASA or CERN's budget, this thing would be done by now.
So the benefit to humanity once you guys get this thing out, it can't be understated.
Correct.
There's
you can't oversell it though. There's so many claims that you can talk about, but it's all worthwhile to make ourselves independent and for a better way of life, so we don't have to focus on refilling a gasoline tank and working extra hours to pay for that. If you can just have the means to do that, hey, you have 5 more hours, I don't have to work. I can actually enjoy life, without having to worry about paying for something. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. For everybody in the world, not have to worry about paying a certain bill or dedicating your life to a slave for something that should just naturally be. That's energy. And we could skip by all the gold and the money and the fiat currency and just live by a standard of energy and be just fine and productive for many, 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 many years.
All the environmental positive benefits too with something like this, without the pollution.
Huge.
Yeah.
Oh, the major claim that I'd like to see tested is that it can reverse nuclear radiation. So if you have a piece of uranium or something and you put it in the center of this, John Surl says that it would take minutes or, depending on the power level, you crank up the power of the unit, it would render the uranium inert of radioactive. It would still be uranium, but it wouldn't be radioactive anymore. Like, it could get rid of radioactive. So you can put spent nuclear fuel rods in the center, power your house at full blast, and just by doing so, it would clean up radiation. That claim alone should be investigated worldwide. Should be getting funding to just that one claim. I mean, come on, you can power your house and your car, but at the same time clean up the radiation.
Yeah, it couldn't be more appropriate than right now, with everything at Fukushima going on.
Yeah, I mean, you can just put a machine right in the center of the Fukushima. It would just render the whole area clean after a while. It would take a while, but months or something like that. That's about it.
Oh man, it would be
rather than thousands of years.
Yeah, it'd be a godsend.
The only thing that it wouldn't do is clean up the junk in the oceans. You have to actually pick that stuff up, get it with a net, and skim the surface of all that stuff. It'd purify the water. It can, electrostatically stuff, but we're gonna have to do a lot of work in order to clean up. But we can do it within a generation. That's the good news.
Yeah, Mr. Surl could go down as the legend. He brought forth anti-gravity travel that brings humanity into outer space and beyond, and this new form of energy that doesn't pollute and basically just doesn't stop producing energy for very
It sure be nice to have people listen to him now, while he's still here. He's 85 years old, and he's not getting any younger, but he's still here.
So is he providing input and working with you guys on a regular
every
basis?
week?
Yeah, that's great,
Yep.
man. That's great. Yeah, it's a fascinating man there, especially that he was inspired by his recurring dreams, He
really is. He's, it's not like he was a follower of anybody. He genuinely originated all this stuff from his own thinking and his own experiences. It's very rare, very rare to have people like that.
Yeah, some of the most innovative people are self-taught, and haven't been blinded by an educational system,
Absolutely.
Sounds like his case.
Have your listeners visit segmagnetics.com, and then you can see our newly reformatted website. And what we do need for the website is like translations, because when you use Google Translate, sometimes it completely murders the translation depending on the language. So what we're looking for is, like, if you speak Chinese, maybe you can just read the website page and then just write out in Chinese what it actually says, and then send that a fax or an email or something, and then we can input that info to the website rather than have Google, like, bastardize whatever the translation is. So we have lots of different languages now, and people are contributing their input to just make it as precisely translated as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jason, I'm super excited with the work you're doing over there, and I can't wait to see how things unfold.
Thank you so much, man. This is a great opportunity, and I'd love to have another time to give you an update later, and just keep in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I had a great time, man.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. Thank you to the listeners, and have a great weekend.
Hey, you too, Jason. All right. Take it easy, man.
Bye.
All right.